Parents, welcome to Biology Open House 2020. Unfortunately, I can't meet you in person due to all this, but we're going to make the best of it tonight. I don't have much time with you, so we're just going to jump in. My name is Stephen Krofl, and I am obviously your son or daughter's biology teacher. A little bit about me before we get started. I'm married. I have a wife. I have a 2-year-old son. His name is Grayson. And before teaching, I actually owned and operated a fitness business. I did that for many years. I coached weightlifting. I also coached volleyball. I played volleyball at a somewhat high level in college and beyond. And I got my undergraduate at Ohio State. I studied biology there, minored in business. I got my master's degree at National Louis University, getting a Master's of Arts in Teaching in secondary science education. Jumping right in tonight, a little bit about what to expect in biology, what your students should expect. I do have high expectations for my students. I think it's the best way to push them to keep them out of their comfort zone, but I think I do have realistic expectations. I'm never going to ask anything of them that I don't think that they can do. I strongly believe in actually doing science, not just learning about it, not just reading about what other people did, but actually getting your hands dirty, so to speak, and looking at data, interpreting things, asking big questions. I'm a big believer in the growth mindset, the idea that no matter where you are at with your skills, abilities, intelligence, that you can always change that with effort and time. And I'm also very open to communication. I typically try to respond to every email within one class day or one school day. And I would say for most of the emails, I'm pretty good with that for parents and students. In terms of success in remote learning, again, this is kind of a new experience for all of us, so we're figuring it out together. But I think one of the biggest things is making sure students have an idea of what their schedule is. By this point in the year, most students have figured that out. In case they haven't, I have included a printable schedule on Canvas. It's under our resources section in the module. A quiet and distraction-free Zoom area is important. Most of your kids already have that. I've seen that on the Zoom calls, so thank you for that. Communication with teachers frequently, especially if you miss a day, if students are having technology issues, things like that. The first thing to do is, I would say, is email me and make sure they're clear as to what they missed, how to make that up, what's expected of them. And finally, with remote learning, we need a device with Wi-Fi capability to participate in class. If you realize that your son or daughter is having a lot of technology trouble, if you realize that they're using exclusively an iPad or their phone to do their homework, I don't recommend that. If they're having problems with their webcams, microphone, getting kicked in and out of Zoom calls, our help desk here at Lyons Township will supply a computer to any student who asks for it. I think they're obligated to. No questions asked, no pre-qualifications, doesn't matter, anything like that. So if you do realize, if your student realizes that their current computing situation isn't working for them, they can email helpdesk@lths.net and they will provide a computer during all of e-learning. So now, what are we going to be learning in biology? We have 14 different objectives. They're numbered and listed on the course syllabus. I think you're supplied with that. If not, it's listed on our Canvas page. I'll show you how to access that later. These 14 objectives go through the whole year. They'll be tied to different lessons, activities, and there are overarching themes that we want your kids to come away with from this class. The first few months we're centering around our Africa storyline. We use something called a storylining curriculum where all of our learning and materials are tied to different phenomena in the world. An example of something we're going to be doing in the storyline is going to be determining relatedness among lions based on real genetic information. We'll be determining where lions live based on their genes. We'll be tracking poachers in a simulation based on DNA evidence and smuggled ivory. We'll be designing appropriate diets for African animals at the zoo, specifically the Brookfield Zoo. We got some real-world data from the Brookfield Zoo. One of our teachers partnered with them to make that happen. Everything we're doing is real-world, real data, and we try to make it as relevant for the kids and as entertaining and exciting for the kids as we can. The grading section in biology may be a little bit different than what you are currently used to or your kids are used to. This is something we talked about a lot during class. We grade on a 100% summative assessment scale. An example of a summative assessment may be a test, a project, a lab, something that kind of sums up the unit that's large. It's a good way for a student to show what they know. A formative assessment might be something like a homework assignment, a small quiz or check at the end of class, a check-in slip, in-class work, group work. Those would be more formative assessment or practice assessments. The reason we grade on the scale is because we want to reinforce the growth mindset of understanding that it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to try without the overlooming fear of getting a bad grade or anything like that. So our formative assessments are kind of an ongoing conversation where if they do turn them in, I'll give them feedback, talk about any misconceptions. They'll have the opportunity to turn it back in for more feedback. So it's an ongoing conversation there. That's where most of our learning will take place, is through these formative assessments. They're really the most valuable part of this class. But again, the testing will determine our grade. Now, if students are keeping up with the formative assessment, if they're participating in class, if they're getting their feedback and taking it to heart, I don't see a problem with them doing poorly in the class. Now, if they are, let's say they decide that they're a poor test taker, they had a bad day, they didn't have time, whatever happened, we understand that things happen, so we will give them the opportunity for retakes. With that being said, that students have to, they have to be up to date with their formative work, right? If they can't just not do any homework, they can't not come to class or participate, get a bad grade on a test, and then decide they want to retake it. So we do have some conditions for the retakes, but for the most part, we do give students opportunities to retake that if they need it. One caveat with this is that your new score replaces the former score, even if it's lower. So if you get a C on a test, you retake it, and you get a D for whatever reason, you would be stuck with a D for that assessment. Now, because of that, I do urge students to take their retakes seriously. If they are going to retake a test or a project or something like that, they really have to put the effort in there. Each assignment we do is labeled with those biology objectives I covered earlier, so they'll know exactly what is required of them. Finally, our official gradebook is Infinite Campus. We'll talk about Canvas later, where we turn in assignments, but if you want to check your student's grade, Infinite Campus is our official gradebook. For remote learning, most of our class work is going to be done during class. I think it's important that students are able to collaborate with one another, have discussions, get feedback from me immediately. So I will do my best to keep most of our work within class hours. There will be times where I give homework, obviously, but my goal is not to give your child busy work. If they have homework, it's meaningful and valuable. They'll be working in breakout rooms, small groups frequently. They're expected to turn on their webcams. This is something I've talked already about in class. I've instructed students, if they have the capability to, I would like to see them on camera. It helps me interact with them. It helps me know that they're there participating in class. I have instructed them, if they have issues, personal issues, whether that's technology related, they don't have a webcam, whether that's social, emotional, anxiety issues, I've urged them to reach out to me and let me know if they're unable to use their webcam. I'm not going to penalize them for that. I would just like to know ahead of time. Finally, I will give them time to work individually where they can turn off that webcam as well. Students will still be completing labs. They're just going to look a little bit different. It's not going to be that traditional biology microscope dissection that you might have experienced when you were younger. What if your son or daughter needs help? Well, you can ask them some questions. Are they engaging in class? Are you on your phone during class? Is your technology working well? Can you hear Mr. Krofl? Are you taking advantage of retake opportunities? But the biggest thing I would say is, are you in class? Are you communicating with your teacher? Between those two, that's really the most important thing. Finally, Canvas is our learning management system. You can become an observer to stay up to date with what we post, what we're doing each day. You can check in on if your son or daughter is submitting their homework or not and seeing their feedback. Finally, I do have office hours. They're listed here. All I ask is that students get a hold of me ahead of time so I can schedule an appointment with them and make sure I'm not double booking or anything like that. I'm more than happy to meet with them after school till at least 3:15. I'm usually here much later than that, but I would love to hear from your son or daughter to make sure that I can help them out however I can, especially during this remote learning time. Again, contact skrofl@lths.net. That's SKROFL. If you have any concerns, you need to get a hold of me. That's going to be the best way. So thank you guys for taking the time to be here in the open house tonight. If you have any questions, like I said, please email me. Have a great night.